Welcome to Empowering Pastors and Leaders. And last week we actually finished the training on leadership pain. And wow, what a phenomenal training from Samuel Chan. I strongly encourage you again to get that information for yourself. You need that book in your library so you can reflect on it on a consistent basis, simply because it's real. It's a real experience. You are going to experience pain. It is going to be challenging for you. And each level of pain you need to be prepared for. And this week, though, I want to start something that is it's not just very important. It literally goes in every area of your life. And it's called momentum. Does anybody know what the terminology momentum means? Means movement. Somebody else, momentum. A force that carries you. It's a great definition as well. Cumulative, very good. Has anybody ever been to an old mill where it's on like a creek and they have this big wheel that water ends up cascading over, and it's called a flywheel, and it starts to move. And it's a water wheel. So the water starts going, and the wheel starts moving very slowly. But after a while, the water didn't change any speed, but now it's starting to collect, and it's starting to get momentum. So it's starting to move quicker and quicker and quicker, and with greater ease and with greater ease. Momentum is that principle. That is momentum. There is such an important necessity to create momentum, because it creates the ease of growth, the ease of movement. There's nothing worse than having to work at every step. And what happens is when momentum comes into your ministry, momentum comes into your life, momentum comes into your business, there is an ease that comes into your life. It's not a striving all the time. There's nothing worse than constantly striving, constantly struggling. You know, at times when you start, you got to. We call it plowing. Whenever you go to an area, when we came to this area for the very first time, I knew we'd be plowing. What does that mean? That means we'd be doing something that really nobody else had. We were immediately named a church that was prosperity driven. We were immediately named a church that was tongue talkers. We were immediately named a bunch of things, and I knew that we would get kickback from our community because we were taking a posture of declaring that God wants you blessed and not cursed. And so what happened was we plowed for many years. Now it's really kind of normal. Now it's not a strange flow. We don't get a lot of kickback from it. Why? Well, because we've got momentum, I should say it this way, momentum flowing properly. And this is what you want in your life. You want to create momentum in your ministry, momentum in your departments, momentum in your businesses, so that it automatically starts moving and it's not a striving on a consistent basis. Knowing this, you've got to know that God is the one who created momentum. God is the one who thinks in the thinking of momentum. What do we mean by that? It's putting motion into your life. There's a verse that's found in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, and it says this. Now to him who is able, shout able, through his mighty power at work within us, to do far more abundantly beyond all that we could ask or think. So knowing this, the word beyond means surpassing. Surpassing is more than just surviving. Surpassing means you're going to move beyond what your mind can fathom or your mind can understand. But you can't move beyond something, if you're constantly struggling with something. And if you don't have momentum, you're constantly hitting the wall, coming back, hitting the wall, coming back, hitting the wall, trying to break through that wall. Once you've broken through that wall, then you have faster momentum. But until you do, you're hitting the wall, hitting the wall. You're having to regain some strength, hitting the wall, regain some strength, hitting the wall. And after a while, it's just plain tiring. So momentum is something that we have to go after. You know what? You can actually feel momentum. You can feel when something's constantly struggling. But when you break through in momentum, you actually physically, emotionally can not only see it, but you can physically feel momentum. It is just a flow that's happening. As you know, I ride motorcycle. And the bikes aren't light. The motorcycle I have weighs over 1,000 pounds. And so when you start off, it's not like you're not just picking your feet up and then hitting the gas. You've got to get some momentum to be able to pick your feet up. So you work with the clutch, you work with the throttle, and you get the motorcycle going. Even if it's 3 or 4 miles an hour, you now have momentum. You can pick your feet up, and you're not going to tip over. Has anybody ever just, I saw it not too long ago. It was very sad. I don't understand it, but it was very sad. They showed a video of a guy. I got to be careful. All right, it was the President of the United States was riding a bicycle just recently. And he came to a stop, which means momentum ceased. But he forgot to put his feet down. Douche. It's a very very sad scene for the ruler of the free world. But I've also seen that on motorcycles. I've watched people, literally, they come to a stop at a red light and they forgot they're on a motorcycle. And they didn't put their feet down. Well, that's 1,000 pounds going over on you. So when momentum stops, you better get your feet ready, because now you're going to have to stabilize. When momentum is actually moving, you get to ride it. When momentum's not moving, you've got to hold it. So momentum plays a massive part in you and I going beyond. Going to is one thing. Going beyond means you need momentum. And so all of a sudden, as the bike starts moving, that's 1,000 pounds. I don't need to keep my feet down. I pull them up and I can ride it. Why? Well, because I have momentum going, and now things are moving forward without me striving, without me balancing, without me having to struggle to keep up 1,000 pounds. It just goes on its own. So if you don't have momentum, you're working harder. So this means this: if you want to see growth, if you want to see the potential that you have come to fruition, it means you've got to think in the mindset of momentum. Yes, it's going to take some time to get it moving. But what do I have to do to crest over so I can pick my feet up? What do I have to do in my ministry, in my department, in my company? What do I have to accomplish to get the flywheel starting to move a little quicker, so now it's doing its own work instead of me having to do rather than me having to do all the work? Okay, thank you very much. I did it. So flywheels are very important. Now, understanding that God thinks in this. This is how God thinks. God thinks in momentum. How do we know that? Genesis 1 and 2. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Ready? And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now, when you look in the Message Bible, when it talks about emptiness, where it says emptiness there, the earth was without form or void, in the Message Bible, it actually says a soup of nothingness. But when God moved, change happened. Movement is necessary. We have a new group of interns here. I'm proud of you. Why? Because you're choosing to make movement to see growth happen spiritually as well as in your own personal life. There are many people that should be here. There are many people that could be here, but most won't be here. most sadly enough will never experience true momentum in their life. They will struggle their whole life. Everything they do will be fighting. They've got to fight to do this. You ever heard somebody say, man, it feels like the whole world is against me? Or every time I take one step forward, it looks like I take 3 steps backwards. That means you don't have momentum. That means you're really not moving. Every time you hit that barrier, you're stepping back. There comes a place you've got to hit the barrier and get momentum enough to keep moving forward. You've got to move forward. Say that with me. Move forward. There's a great book called Falling Forward. You know, that you've got to learn how even if you're struggling, that you're going to not fall backwards, you're going to fall forwards. Momentum is everything to where you can finally start enjoying instead of always struggling. Where you can literally get into a mode to where you're riding the bicycle and it's not tipping over. That's momentum. And the Spirit of God moved over the face of the earth. Movement starts momentum. Somebody that's not willing to move or is lazy, lazy is bad. Lazy is bad. I'll just say it this way. I never allowed my children to stay in bed past 7 a.m. Ever. Didn't matter what day it was. Didn't matter if it was a Saturday. I went upstairs, you're going to sleep your life away, get out of bed. I got them out of bed every day, 7 a.m. Didn't matter. Can't we sleep in? No, you can't. Get out of bed. You're not sleeping your day away. Get out of bed. What I did was I created workers. I created people that were makers. If you'll notice, my sons and my daughter, they're going to make something happen. If something isn't happening, they'll make it happen. If something is a struggle, they're not stepping back. They're going to create momentum. Well, how did that happen? Because their father got them out of bed at 7 o'clock every single morning, and I made sure that they weren't going to be a slug. Turn to someone and say, don't be a slug. Can you imagine if all of a sudden the world was out without form or void, or that soup of nothingness, but the Spirit of God said, you know, it's kind of maybe I just relax today. No, the Spirit of God moved. You've got to move. You can't be lazy. The Bible calls it sluggards. The Bible actually says, be like the ant, who when it's not even in season is already collecting food. If you want momentum, you've got to get out of your mind that laziness is an option. You cannot be lazy. We struggle right now with the last 2 generations. If you talk to any business owners, we are struggling, in fact, right now, and it goes across Carte Blanche about all ages. Most companies cannot find workers. It's not that there aren't jobs, there aren't workers. McDonald's is offering, $15 to $17 an hour. There are professionals that don't make that much money. But they still can't find workers. Why? People don't want to work. They'd rather be lazy. Lazy is the devil's work. No, really. You think it's just, well, I just need a few extra hours sleep. Some of you are sleeping so long that now you're tired. Whether you realize it or not, the longer you don't exercise and you stay in bed, the toxins build up in your body and you get more tired with the more sleep you get. Your body was made to be in motion. That's why in America today, we are an obese country. We're an obese country because we don't move. We must move. God created us to move. You will never hit the stride of momentum without movement. And if you can't move out of bed, you'll never get momentum in your ministry. I'll say it again. If you cannot get out of bed, you will never get momentum in your ministry, your department, or your company. Amen. It is imperative. It is a mandate. It is a mandatory. I'll give you mine. You ready? I've had a few stressful years. So I haven't slept a lot. And I decided I was starting to get some great sleep over the last maybe 2 months. You know, sleep until 6:30. Yeah, no, you got to understand. If I sleep past 7 o'clock, I actually get headaches. So I never sleep past 7. But I think it was 2 weeks ago, I woke up at 7:20. I felt great. So I said to myself, self, you're turning into a lazy slug. So this morning, I set my alarm for 5:25. My alarm went off at 5:25. I said to myself, get out of bed. Well, my body says, hit snooze. No, get out of bed. I was out of bed this morning, went down and did about 2 hours devotions with the Lord and cleaned part of my house. I picked up, took care of my laundry, got it all going. Ended up, I left at 8:30 to make sure I'm here for my first 9 o'clock meeting. We've had a 10 o'clock already staff meeting. I'm here with you. Then from here, I'll be doing Bible school. Then Bible school, I'm going to go home because they're working on my house and my furnace. After my furnace, I already have an appointment for the evening. And I'll get home probably 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. And then I'll be able to go to bed. But I'll be up at 5:30 tomorrow morning. Out of bed. Do you think I want to be out of bed? I don't want to be out of bed. I mean, right now, I could probably take a nap if I could do a nap, but I can't do naps because I don't feel good after naps. But if my head says take a nap, because I've been up a long time. Pastor Cody gets up every morning at 4:30 a.m. to go weight lift. See, to me, that's sick. That's a sickness. There's something wrong with that. But if you look at him, he is the largest Spencer that I know. The largest muscles. He's just big. He's a big guy. But he's paid the price to get that momentum. So 2 days ago, I decided, you know what? I'm getting a little flabby in my arms and my back. And so I've got to do something. So I know what I have to do. I have to go get my pull-up bar. Got my pull-up bar. I used to be able to do 25 with no problem. And I could keep going. I think the most I used to do was 40, 45. And that wasn't that many years ago. So I put up my pull-up bar the other day, and I got 2. So I've decided that every time I go by the pull-up bar, I at least have to do 2. So now on I think my second or third day, I just did 5 this morning. I'll go home and probably do 5, and now I'll do 5 every time now. And by the end of 2 to 3 weeks, I'll start getting cut in my back. I'll actually start getting lats instead of flab. My biceps are already starting to do better. I can already, in just a few days, I used to be able to put my fingers around my wrist I'm starting to build up muscle already. Of course, I've been doing other exercises. But when I started, I could only get 2. In just a few days, I'm already at 5, and then I know I'll be at 10, and then I know I'll be at 20, and then within a month, I'll be back to what I was before. But I couldn't do what I did before right off the bat. I had to work harder at it. Why? Well, because I was without momentum. But now I'll start building momentum, even in my physical body, to where now it will become ease. So I've been doing sit-ups, and I've been doing push-ups, and I've been doing this one where you lay down, your arms are flat on your side, and you pick them up, and you bring them to your chest, and you bring your leg out. You don't drop it. You keep it flat, and then you hold it, and you bring it up, and you bring it out. I remember when I first started that, I could maybe do like 6 or 7. My back hurt, and I was out of breath, and I was saying, "Dear Jesus, come back soon." But now, without any problem, I can do 50 of those. And when I'm done 50, I can literally plank out and hold it there for almost a minute. But you don't get there to start. You don't have momentum right off the bat. You got to work at this. And just so many people are lazy, they don't want to work. And you've got to determine in your heart that busyness doesn't mean you're not lazy. Let me say that one more time. Just because you're busy don't mean you're not lazy. There are a lot of busy people that are lazy. What does it mean? It means you're making a little bit of movement, but you're not creating momentum because you're not focusing in one area of your life. You're so fragmented, you're actually not accomplishing anything. You're actually just looking busy. Whether you realize it or not, you're wasting an enormous amount of energy. Every one of us have the same 24 hours. We will either create momentum that will bring us into the next day, that will allow us to move further, or every day we're going to have to plow for the rest of our lives. You see, everybody should have a vision. The vision you have should be larger than what you could actually accomplish. If you could achieve your vision, then it's not a God vision. Why? Because that means you can do it yourself. So here's what happens. People get a vision and they make it what's called a dream. A vision is to be accomplished. A dream is just a nice thought. There are a lot of people with nice thoughts. But until you create momentum, you'll never reach your vision. You've heard me talk about the Pareto before. For those who don't know what it is you need to write down every single morning the 10 things that you need to accomplish. If you're not writing anything down, it's like going to the supermarket without a shopping list. You're going to end up with a lot of stuff, but nothing you actually went for. Why? Well, because there's shiny things there. Three Musketeers are shiny. There's candy in this aisle. There's a magazine over in this side. There's soda over there and a little ice cream over here. And you didn't go for that. You went to go buy a week's worth of groceries so you could come home and you had a meal plan. But you had a meal plan. You had a vision. You had a meal plan, but you did not go to the supermarket with a Pareto. So you come back with $300 worth of groceries, but only $50 of the groceries actually go towards the meal plan. Now you got to go back to the supermarket. Spend more money. Why? Because you didn't go with a plan. You'll never hit momentum without a plan. You'll never hit momentum without you coming into a day. Now listen now. The day that you and I have, that 24 hours, is going to, you can literally look at it. It is either this Isn't that painful watching me do that? I'm not even all the way around yet. I'm tired just doing it. Or it can be this. And the only way to get this is to make one day move into the next. Or every morning you got to get up and you got to start momentum all over again. Now within 4 days, my brain, I usually automatically wake up at about 5. I've been sleeping a little bit later. Now I'm going to bring momentum back to my life so I can literally regain my morning. Somebody said something one time. They said, you only get a certain amount of sunrises in your life. Why would you want to miss one? And so within a week, I'll have momentum back in my waking schedule. And it will no longer be challenging for me to get up out of bed at 5:30 a.m. Go downstairs, put on the music, throw on the coffee, grab my Bible, and watch the sunrise over on the left-hand corner of my house. Because I only get so many of them. If you don't have a Pareto, if you don't have a plan for the day, there's no way that you are going to come back from the supermarket with the right stuff. There's no way for your day to build. Come on now, you got a vision. There's no way to hit that vision unless you're planning your day to aim at the vision. If you're not aiming at the vision, then how can you have momentum? Which means you're constantly struggling. You're constantly working harder than you have to. Everything we do every day should get us closer to that vision. If it's not getting us closer, then where are we going? Well, you're going down this rabbit trail. So now you got to cut a new trail to come back to the vision. Or you got to backtrack. You're either aiming towards it, or now you're playing around. Maybe never hit it. So if you want to start a business, let's say you want to start a company, you can't start a company without a business plan. Once you get a business plan, then you have to concoct an idea of how to obtain or ascertain that business plan. What do you got to do? Who do you got to talk to? What do you got to accomplish? What do you got to file? How do you get incorporated? Where are you going to get the money to incorporate? Then all these things are now starting to take shape, but you're going to have to plow through those things, which means it's work to do that, but yet you're aiming and you can accomplish it because now you're aiming at it. And even though you start and it might be challenging, the closer you get to it, the easier it is. So if you're not planning your day to hit the target, then what are you actually doing? Well, you're wasting life. I mean, literally wasting life. I'm not just saying you're wasting your life. I'm saying you are literally wasting your life. Well, I'm just a teenager. Really? You know how many millionaires there are that are teenagers? They had a great idea. They made it happen. And before they ever graduated high school, they were a multimillionaire. Why is that not possible for you? God says, abundantly above all you could even ask or imagine. Why wouldn't it be possible for you? Why couldn't you accomplish that? Why couldn't you get better grades? Why couldn't we have this in this department and this in this department? Why can't we accomplish those things? Well, it's simple. Because we're having to plow every day when at some point we should already have momentum. But you can't have momentum if you're not going to aim at where you're going and plan it. So God, by nature, this is what he does. God created man as a perpetuator of life. What does that mean? Let's look at it. Genesis 2. That's in the Bible for those who don't know. And it says this, then the Lord God formed the man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. If God had not breathed into man, what would have happened to him? It would not have been man. Now, if he wasn't man, what would you be? You would be not man. What does that mean? You're not here. So God had a vision. Genesis 1:26, let us make man in our image and in our likeness, that they may have dominion. So God had a vision. But the only way to start the vision was not just that the Spirit of God brooded over the earth or moved over the earth, what did he call it? The soup of nothingness, to create it. Then he had to breathe into man. God moved to create movement. When was the last time you purposely made movement? Some of you are in this class because you got to be in this class. Actually, you are all in this class because you have to be in this class. But a wise person wouldn't have to be in this class to be in this class. In fact, Cody is the one that doesn't have to be in this class, and he's in this class. Yes, you have. What happens is this. If you always have to, that means you don't want to. If you don't want to, then you don't desire it. If you don't desire it, then it doesn't build you. It's just an activity. And then what do you do in the rest of your life? You're plowing. Well, why does this person always have stuff and I don't? Easy. They chose to move, and you chose to be lazy. They chose to aim, and you chose to chuck. They chose to hit, and you chose to wander. The only people you ever see in the Bible that wandered were the children of Israel when they rebelled against God's plan of entering into the promised land. And they wandered for 40 years until they died. What did they accomplish? Their shoes never wore off. They had food every morning. But what did they accomplish? Nothing. Did they enter the best? Nope. Did God take care of them? Yeah. Did they get what they were supposed to? No. Was it abundantly above all you could even ask or imagine? I don't think so. They plowed for their entire life through the desert. Momentum is very important. We'll pick up on this next week. But momentum is very important. And if you choose to learn how to create momentum, then you don't have to live tired. You can live in the flywheel, where now the vision is carrying you instead of you always having to carry the vision. But that just doesn't happen. You have to make that happen, and it's purposed. Okay? Questions? Anybody online have a question? It is great teaching. Thank you, Pastor Kevin. Anybody have a question? Very good. Thank you so much for watching Empowering Pastors and Leaders. We will pick up next week on momentum. It'll be week 2. I hope to see you there.